Hello.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of The Grid. My name is RC, and I'm joined this week by Mr. Pete Collins over to my left.
I was wondering which direction you were going. Hey, everybody.
I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry. And to my right, we have Mr. Brad Moore.
What's up?
Now, I'm just going to... This isn't sponsored by anybody here other than...
Nestle.
I know. I'm like...
Pure Life water.
Out with the glasses. But anyway... Thank you so much for stopping by, guys. This week, we kind of wanted to talk a little bit about becoming a photo ninja. And it's part conversation for some tips that we want to talk about to make you a little bit better without getting arrested, right? When Mr. P. Collins.
He's doing the crane.
I just noticed that. I'm like, I thought you were doing this. Point to me.
No. But pretend under the desk I'm standing on a boat with one foot.
Okay.
Sorry.
That'll be a mental image you'll never get rid of. Now, this actually, it's part storytelling, part solution, right? I didn't want to just necessarily come over here and just be like, this stuff sucks and this is how we work with it.
Because that's what you normally do.
Right.
That's how it is every day in our office.
So what we wanted to be able to do is kind of give you guys a little bit of both worlds and include you guys in the conversation. So if you're following this, you're watching this, make sure that you join the chat over on the right. I think it's over on the right-hand side.
Yes.
Make sure you point over
You
there.
might notice it's a new chat service we're using. It's just the Ustream chat service. So if you've not already signed up for that, it's free, easy, quick to do. So then just jump in the chat and talk with us.
Perfect. We'd love to be able to hear from you. Now, where's Scott?
Scott is on his way to the airport. He
right.
left as we were starting, basically. So he is going to Amsterdam.
The land of
Frank
Milk and
Dorhoff.
honey.
pot and hookers.
Anyway, so yeah, he's going over to do a...
Y'all don't remember that story from
yes.
last time? Sorry, guys.
Hookers and pot. Okay. Wonderful. This will be good. Very awkward moments for the start. But he's off to Amsterdam. He's actually teaching at the I think it's like the photo experience or something in Amsterdam.
Sure.
He's out there with Frank Dorhoff.
Yeah.
Terry White's out there.
Bert Monroy's out there.
Monroy's out there. So I think it's a really, really cool thing. So he's out there for the week.
Just for the record, the last time we talked about Amsterdam, Brad shared a whole story about how he got in trouble mentioning that. But anyway.
When we were there, it was around the time of my birthday. We were out to dinner with Scott, his wife, and his, at the time, like 15-year-old son. They asked what I wanted for my birthday, and I knew that was going to come up, so I'd already had an answer at the ready, which was pot and hookers. And they were like, did you seriously just say that in front of our 15-year-old son? And he thought it was hilarious,
Yep.
and so that was the joke the rest of the trip. For the context, if you didn't already know.
Right.
Back to our
Sorry, I derailed that.
regular footage.
The thing that people don't know is that you don't like pot.
No.
But anyway, so
Or hookers.
now we want to be able to have you guys as part of the conversation. So make sure that you join in on the chat and talk to us a little about this. Now, the entire seminar, what we were talking about this week about photography and the law and things like that, actually started with a story that you were sharing with us, Pete, about almost getting arrested.
Yeah, it's funny that...
Talk to us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, I'm actually going to show a little... This is the footage that got me in trouble. And let's make sure I'm going to have to go to video control room 2. For some reason, they don't like video control room 1. It's a plot, I think, against the number 1. But let's see if it's popping up. I've got the little beach ball of happiness that we all love, seeing that spin around. All right, there we go. Should have it. There it is. And, of course, I've done a little editing in Photoshop because now with Photoshop, you can do some great editing in there. But here, I'm going to set the stage. This is after WPPI. I've already had my flight canceled one time. This is the next morning. I'm coming in there again. I've spent an extra night there. I come in bright and early, and there is hundreds of people packed in there, and nobody else in the airport. It's just American Airlines, and they're just pointing people around. And it was the most convoluted way they had dealt with people, and they were just, all they cared about is putting you in a line. They didn't care what your question was, what your ticket was, you had any problems. They just wanted you in a line because it then seemed like they were doing something. And the people were some of the most rude people I dealt with, and they would not answer your questions. So when you start this video, you're going to see this guy on the left. This guy on the left was in front of me. He'd gotten there about 20 minutes before me, and he had been in 4 different lines, and he finally stopped somebody and said, "Can you help me? I'm deaf." And he had been stuck in so many different lines, they realized, okay, we probably need to deal with him. They put him in another line, and next thing you know, he's back at the end of another line. He missed his flight. Everybody's missing flights, and they were just pointing people around everywhere. So I finally said, enough of this. I'm going to record this. It's so bad, the people around me were just amazed at it. So I said, I'm going to record this. So here's what happens. I come in. And so I start recording, and this lady, she got mad because people were getting out of line. And if you can hear, she's yelling at them to get back in line. And you'll notice, if I stop it real quick, if you look down here, this guy and this guy will start paying attention to what's going on. This group had been stuck off somewhere else. They barely spoke any English. The treatment was horrendous, but they start seeing me filming this. Well, these people back here, she just starts ordering them to redo a line, to come out of the line they're in and get in another line. And I'm not hiding any of this. As a matter of fact, you can see I am not actually 8 feet tall. I'm holding this camera at the top of my reach, recording all this so that they would see that I was recording it, hoping that they would pay attention, that people are paying attention to how they're treating their customers. Well, so they're busy just ordering people around. You'll see they make people duck under a thing, get back in another line, and it just keeps going on like this. And the people around me, if you hear me, they're going, this is unbelievable. And so you see the guys noticing me like, yep, he's filming it. Well, as this goes along, it's about to come up where I'm going to switch over. I capture them doing this, and I'm going to swing over to this other group right here. And you see them. This is a group. They were in front of me. She just starts pointing. You need to go over here. And they're like, wait, you need to go over. No, you need to go over in that line. He's like, wait, I've been in that line. I need to come over here. And that's all that was going on. I'm recording all this, and I should have had. I told him I didn't need audio, but I should. Right here, I have an American Airlines manager come up to me and tell me that there is no photography allowed in the airport. And I then said, no, I said, okay. I immediately put my phone down. I'd been holding it up in the air like this, filming. So it wasn't like I was being sneaky. I wanted them to see that I was filming. Hopefully they would do a little better job of what they were doing. She came over and said I needed to stop filming. I said, okay. I turned it off, put it in my pocket. I walked up to the counter, and the lady said, you're going to have to delete all your film. You're not allowed to film in here. And I said, okay, I will. Can you show me where that's written, where the rules are, what's the guidelines for that? I'd just like to know. In a very, very non-confrontational way. I was like, do you have some rules about that? I'll be happy to, but what are the rules for that? She looked at me, with me saying it exactly like that. She said, okay, I can see we're going to have a problem here. I'm calling security and the police. You stand right over there. And she yelled to everybody in the back there, nobody check this man in. And she said, sir, you're filming in an airport. It can be considered a terrorist activity, and you need to stand right there till security and the police come talk to you.
Wow. Terrorist.
Yeah, she pulled out the terrorist card, said filming in the airport was a terrorist activity, and I needed to stand right there. And so we'll talk about what happened later, but so I sat down immediately and I tweeted out, I am being held for suspicion of terrorist activities, because at least I wanted people to know where I was in case I disappeared. But simply
for taking a picture.
Well, for filming them, filming the way they were treated, and end of the story was going to be more. They were concerned about how they looked than terrorist activities. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I was told, first of all, I couldn't film in there, and the second person said that I had to delete all my film under suspicion of terrorist activities.
Wow.
Good stuff.
Yeah. I know, and those are the kinds of things that happen with photography and filming in public places these days. Now, it's not like that all the time. I mean, it's not like that here, it's like that abroad sometimes as well, right? I mean, you ran into a story.
So, yeah, we, last week, Scott and I were in Dubai, and while we were there, he was telling me about the first time that he had gone. There's this really well-known hotel over there called the Burj Al Arab, and it's like right on the beach, out in the water and stuff, and he had gone there to photograph it. And so he gets out there and he gets his tripod out and starts setting it up and everything, and as soon as that tripod hits the ground, security. And so they come out and they're like, sir, he says, like, they're very polite about it, but very apologetic, and they're just like, sir, sorry, we don't allow, professional, or we don't allow people to take pictures of the hotel on tripod and blah, blah, blah. The whole spiel about no professional photography. And he was like, okay, well, that's understandable, but I'm just curious, like, why is that? and they explain, well, we're very protective about the image that we portray of the hotel, the pictures that get out there, and the way that people portray it in the media. And he was like, okay, so you don't have any problems if I just take pictures without a tripod? And they're like, you're welcome to do that all day long. He was like, okay, so you're telling me you want to protect the way the hotel looks and make sure it looks great, but you're not letting me take pictures in a way that would do that. You would rather me handhold it, risk getting blurry, out of focus pictures, where if I was using a tripod, they would be sharp, the hotel would look great. So I'm not really understanding the logic here. And the security guy thought about it for a minute and said, here's my card, come back tomorrow. How many pictures do you need? He was like, I just need a few pictures. It won't take me very long at all. He was like, come back tomorrow. If anybody gives you any trouble, hand them my card, tell them I gave you permission. So the next day he comes back and nobody shows up. He's out there for like an hour taking pictures. So, it's just one of those things. I don't know. So,
but see, and I think I just want to be able to add one more story before we go into that kind of stuff, because I think what happens with most of that, and look, so the chat, we're pulling double duty here. We're watching you guys on the chat. We're watching you guys on social media. So if you're putting something out there, we definitely want to be able to hear it. But a couple of people were just like, I would sue the crap out of them. That's when you would start yelling, cha-ching, I'm going to be rich after a lawsuit. Like, technically, you could try to file a suit, right, for them, right? That could be one thing. Make them pay for breaking the law. Somebody says something about the photographer's right. There's a couple, we're going to get to the photographer's right in a second.
Yeah.
Because there's kind of a catch-22 with that as well. But one of the things that I think that's funny is, and I'd love to be able to hear from you guys in the chat on this, is the concept of the tripod. Mm-hmm. As being the bearer of professional stuff. So I'll tell you, so I was out, I think it was a Max conference in San Francisco. And I left and I went to a hotel and I was having coffee. And I was having coffee at this restaurant and it was incredibly yellow. It was just, everything was yellow. And I was like, this is really, really cool. And I started to take a picture and I pulled out my tripod and just kind of set it up. And as I was setting it up, the guy comes over and goes, I'm sorry, you can't take any pictures. And I'm like, why? And he's like, well, we don't allow professional pictures to be taken. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I'm just eating my food. And I just set up my tripod to take that picture that's over there. And he's like, but we don't allow professional pictures. And I'm like, I tend to dress down when I take pictures. I want to be known as like hobo taking the picture. I don't like calling attention to myself. And I'm like, what is it about me that's saying that it's a perfect, oh, well, you're using a tripod. And I'm like, when did the standard of professionalism become the tripod? And is it? I mean, is that the case?
I'm seeing a new marketing strategy.
I hate tripods.
Want to look professional? Buy this tripod. $19.95, get a free set of wind chimes.
So it's like, is it the tripod? And then by that extension, so then when you shoot with a phone, then the phone's not a professional? And that's the part that I don't necessarily understand. And then we got into a little bit of an altercation where a lot of the times I just kind of walked away from it. But I don't understand where the entire concept of the tripod being the professional thing. I don't understand why there's no clear sets of rules, but there are a lot of really bad stories that come with most of this stuff. What do we do? My friend Donna put up a situation where she said that she was trying to take a picture of a person. Let me read hers because it was on Facebook. She had this, I guess she said that she put, let's see.
She was out at a park.
I was at a public park setting up a picture of a girl behind an umbrella supposed to look like she was naked. She had her shorts pulled up and her shoulders and her shirt tucked in. Somebody called the police on me and said I was doing a naked picture in the park and that there were children there. The cop showed up only to be very embarrassed. Now, Donna, I wouldn't be setting up any shoots of people looking naked to start. It's the illusion of being naked.
That's not what you told me the other day.
Shush. But that's a sticky situation, right? Because it's like, well, you're pretending to be naked. Mm-hmm. It could be misconstrued, but still.
Yeah.
I'd do that away from children. I don't know what you're thinking. No, I'm totally kidding. I'm totally kidding from that. Lois had pointed out, when I lived in New York at my daughter's property, which butted up to the 9-mile nuke plant, I was detained, handcuffed, and interrogated by the Army for taking a macro shot of the flower on the ground with the nuke plant behind me while in our own front yard. Of course, this was 2002, and there was still a lot of panic over the World Trade Center
Wow.
event. So,
Yeah.
what do you do?
That's pretty intense. In your own yard.
So, I mean, for a macro shot,
Don't live next to a nuke plant.
right? Or something like this.
Was he doing HDR cats with the macro?
Oh, Lord. Here we go with the HDR cats thing again. But anyway, so there's definitely a lot of situations. It's really, really bad in most of these kinds of things. Acorn picks, you need a proper release, usually for architectural real estate. License refers to what, with you being established as a business in your own town with a tax ID. So it looks like they're talking a little bit about whether or not you actually need a license to do something, to shoot some stuff. Now, I do know that when we're shooting pictures, like when we're doing stuff for paid, we need to be able to have releases of specific icons and landmarks and things like that. But this, we're just talking about in general, right? But it brings us all into a situation where it's like, there's this ball of stuff. What are the solution against these kinds of problems? One of the first things that people usually pull out. No, go right ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, let's take a break real quick.
Okay.
Then come back and we'll get into the solutions. We've talked about the problems. Take a break. Come back.
Well,
Talk about
possible
solutions.
solutions.
Well, yeah.
They're not
Yes.
solutions
Yeah,
just
no,
yet.
not 100%.
We've got it all nailed down.
So, nice. Anyway, stick around. We'll be right back here on The Grid.
Oh, wait. Greg, do you see that?
Yeah, Brent. What tracks are those?
I don't know.
These look like moose tracks.
Moose. In Africa.
Station says fresh tracks of a moose heading east from First Avenue Piccadilly towards Fred Street.
Greg, keep a lookout for fresh scat out here.
Brendan, I don't know what moose scat looks like. Station tracks of the moose look to head east. Brendan, look.
Moose is in Africa.
Welcome back, everybody, to The Grid RC here with Pete Collins and Brad Moore, and we're talking about Photography Ninja, how to be able to do stuff without getting arrested in photography. We've set up the stage, talked about some really bad stories that have happened to us, happened to some people in the chat. Possible solutions.
Possible solutions.
Right. Possible. And that's the thing. I was like, I don't want to necessarily say that
Asterisk.
there's
Well,
actually-
let's jump.
Asterisk,
Let's jump
asterisk.
in that in a second. First of all,
Please go ahead.
I like Jock. Jock's photo said, "If I have a hose, that doesn't make me a fireman. But if I get a tripod, I'm a pro." He said he had no idea how it was that easy. Yes. You don't need training. You don't need anything else. Just
a
buy a
tripod.
tripod. Walmart has them. You can knock it out. You can be a professional. Buy this afternoon. Good call, Jock.
So now, one of the things that came up was the concept of the photographer's bill of rights.
Yep.
So, and I saw that you had it up. Can you bring that
Yep.
back up real quick? Talk to people about what this is.
Okay, this was set up for people to carry around so that when they get accosted about taking photography, they can say, "These are the rights that I have. These are photographic rights by the that have been given to me, that I'm able to do these things legally, and you can't impose upon me and say that I can't do these things." So a lot of photographers will have this and carry it around. Should a security guard or whatever come up, they bring out their photographer bill of rights and say, "These are the things I can do, and you need to let me do them."
Right.
And there's a lot of there's plenty of websites out there. Photography is not a crime, and these other things that talk about these situations that have occurred where photographers have really gotten in trouble, and then sometimes they've worked out well, other times they haven't worked out quite as well. There's all these back and forth. You hear all kinds of stories about how things went between security, police, and cameras.
Right.
And so this is part of what people say: arm yourself with the photographer's bill of rights, so that you can say, "This is what I can and can't do" when somebody accosts you.
Right. And so the concept is, by walking around with information that people can read. This could be what. So we talked about this too. Also, we talked about photographyisnotacrime.com. So we have the website up there if you want to take a look at kinds of things. And I think that probably one of the biggest problems with this too is that there are laws that are actually very conflicting. That you deal with most of this stuff. Like, I pulled up a couple of things that I wanted to do. So Petapixel recently just finished putting in something that there's a Texas bill that's going out there right now that says that it's going to be a crime to photograph police from 25 feet. I think they said it was going to be a Class B misdemeanor. So if you're within 25 feet of the cops and you're taking a picture, you're committing a crime.
And that includes media, doesn't it?
Well, no, they have some exceptions that they want to be able to do, but generally 25 feet, and their concern is public safety. They're saying that you could be in the way of a police officer performing his duties, right? So that's happening in Texas, which is Texas. Now, on the flip side,
And the problem is with all these
Florida,
things,
we got no room to talk.
I know.
The problem with all this stuff is there's a slippery slope on both sides.
Right.
You know, there's chances for abuses on both sides.
How do you feel about that? How do you feel about the Texas?
I tend to be a little bit more libertarian, but I also tend to be a little more common sensarian as well. That it's gone by the wayside a lot nowadays. We tend to sometimes get so wrapped up in our rights that we do wrong for the sake of our rights.
Yep.
Just because you can do something doesn't always mean it's a good idea to do it.
Yeah. I think there's some sort of civic responsibility.
But
at a lot
Brad,
of
if
times.
loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right.
Okay, moving on. So from there, on the opposite side of the fence, you have the city of Los Angeles, who was just recently fined, right, by PDN Photo District News just ran this one article that said that the city of Los Angeles was just fined $50,000. And basically, they pay $50,000 to photographers, and they say that they're going to train their deputies on photography not being a crime. So you have one state that does this, you have another state that does this. You would think that probably one of the most common things that you could do is to carry a document with you, like the photographer's right, and as soon as you show up, go, this is my right.
Right.
Don't get in my way.
Well, and the 50,000
Right.
was in response to three different people that had three different instances. And you can read those stories, and each one of them, there was misunderstanding there. And one of the things it talks about is how the police department is going to train their police officers. And usually a lot of it we see is a misunderstanding of the role of security and police. But you can get in trouble when you become the teacher of education to the security or the police. You feel like it's now my role. Yes, you know you're right to be in this place to shoot these pictures.
Right.
But is it your role to become the educator of that policeman, woman, or security guard?
Yep.
You know, that's when you got to decide, you know, pick your battles.
Yeah, and see, and that's the part where I'm like, people are like, usually, did you carry the photographer's bill of right? I carry it laminated in my pocket. And I'm like, so? I actually don't, that would be the last thing that I would show a police officer.
Because we were talking about this before the show, and anytime you hear someone called a card-carrying ... what do you automatically think about that person? They're a
Racist.
jerk.
They're literate.
Racist jerks. I don't know where I came with racist. That's just the first thing. It's just, I tend to...
But it's like you automatically think of them as somebody who's argumentative. Like,
Right.
I have this card because this is what I believe in, and these are my rights.
Here's the problem take a look at the photographer's right. Now, mind you, please do not misunderstand. I think that this is a great resource. I think the fact that this person put this together and the fact that this is an attorney, I think it's a good thing, really. So since he's an attorney, don't sue. That said, what I want to be able to tell you, this PDF is not from the Department of Justice. This is not a memorandum from Barack Obama to the rest of the world saying, please, it's okay. This is not like The Hague.
And it's not a get out of jail free card.
And it's not a get out of jail free card.
It's good to know what you should be able to do.
It's a person who got together and said, these are the general rules. That is like going to a police officer, having them arrest you and go, I have this awesome Newsweek article that says that you shouldn't arrest me. But the only difference with that is that now you're using this Newsweek you're using this article as in like, ha ha, you can't arrest me. Suck it. It's like, but
Oh, they can still arrest you.
and that was the point that we made. So let's go back to Pete's story on the entire concept of, so Pete's fuming about this,
Actually,
and you make a call.
Yeah, so we're going to pretend that this is the American Airlines counter, and I am persona non grata there. I'm over here where our guests normally sit. I'm standing there quietly, and I'm like, I should get a little more heads up on this. So I go, who can I call? I know, I'll call my buddy Mike Olivella. Good
a
friend.
lawyer.
Who's a
Good
lawyer.
friend. We've done some neat stuff together, who happens to be a lawyer, and he's a good one. And I call him up. Plus, he was the only lawyer I had on my speed dial. But that's I'm like, Mike. I'm like, hey, Mike. Listen, I just got detained. I'm waiting on the police to come over here and talk to me because I was taking photographs in the airport. And American Airlines is claiming that could be considered a terrorist activity. And so what should I do? He said, okay, well, American does have some of its own rules and its own regulations, and it can decide certain things. It's kind of got its little fiefdom there. But that's for them, not necessarily for the airport. He says, but you want to get home, don't you? I said, yeah. He said, well, then go ahead and erase the thing. You know you can recover it when you get home, right? But he was like, you're right, but you want to get home. He said, so just let them have their day and agree to whatever. You know, don't give up your complete rights and like, yeah, you can take my kids and all this stuff. He said, but don't fight to the point where you lose out on what your ultimate goal is, which is to get out of Las Vegas and get home.
Right.
And he said, then you could do something that's not going to cost you being stuck in Vegas for a few more days.
Right.
You know, and that was, in other words, he was saying, be smart about choosing your battles.
Right. And I think that that's the thing.
And then he said, oh, by the way, I'm sending you a bill.
Now, from here,
You,
one of the
Mike.
other things that I saw was somebody turned around and said, I was a cop for 30 years. Not good to show me a copy of anything from the ACLU. And that was the point. Like you're going to go to a police officer, a person of security who has some form of dominion in that one space, and you're going to turn around and go, Psh, peace out.
Yeah.
This is my right. And that cop could turn around and go, okay, yeah, totally cool. You're right. But I saw you jaywalking 20 minutes ago, and I have all day. So if you're busy, I'm just going to tie you up with paperwork. I'm going to bring you downtown, and the statue number 447, you used your left foot in front of a right foot when you were doing something, and you could be buried in a technicality for no reason whatsoever. I know cops that have said, this is a good idea for me to do, because they're like, what am I going to do? Sit around for the rest of the day? I'll fill out your paperwork. Guess what? I'm picking you today. So the Photographer's Bill of Rights isn't going to help you with that.
Well, and to follow that up, so I'm sitting there quietly, and 4 police officers come over. You know, they were scared of this.
Yes, they are.
Basically, you got to figure out,
Bin
they're
Laden.
people too. They're bored of the humdrum everyday stuff. They like something that gives them a little something different to do. So 2 of them walk over while 2 cover me.
Osama bin Collins.
In case I
You're on fire
broke
today.
free.
Sorry.
But they come over and start talking to me, and we had a great conversation. And they're like, sir, you have the right to be taking photographs in here. No, they can't do all this. But what they can decide is whether or not they're going to allow you on their airlines, and that's what they're trying to decide right now. You're not in trouble with us or anything like that, but we're going to stay here and see how things resolved with them. And so that, at the point, I knew I wasn't getting in trouble by the law, but I was worried that I would end up in Hoboken after this, and then maybe eventually I'd make it home. Turns out I had to stay another day. I ended up going out on the 12:50 red eye that night. I'm assuming that was the only flight they had available for me.
It was for you, by yourself.
But that was the whole thing. They said, yeah, no, you're okay. And I actually had a great time talking with the cops. We were talking about guns and vests and all that stuff. And
That tasing didn't really hurt. Here, you could get your probes back. There you go.
But so that was the whole thing. Is the cops are like, no, you're within your rights, but they have the ability to refuse you service. And I could have claimed my rights all day long. As a matter of fact, I could have claimed them for the next day and the next day and the next day, and I would have never left the airport.
Yeah, I'm reading the chat, and somebody in the chat, I don't know who it was, but somebody just put, First Amendment of the United States prohibits the making of law, respecting establishment. My eyes are beginning to bleed because it's like the moment that people start there is this thought that that presenting documentation that's law can get you out of law. The only people who can so here's the one tip that I would give you above everything else. Do not present any documentation whatsoever that talks about law to law people. Because what will happen
the officer that you're dealing with knows what they are able to do. They don't care if it holds up in court, but they know that they can arrest you and make your day a bad day.
That is the key point with all of this. It is a good idea for you to know the law. It is a good idea for you to follow the law. It is a good idea for you to talk to people about the law. But you cannot use the law in these situations. Obviously, you should be a fan of the law. You can't use the law to turn around and go, aha!
I'm free from charge.
Because what's going to happen is the next chess move in that game is, you obviously know something, I know something different. A court will have to decide.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be in the court part to begin with. So don't escalate to that.
Well, and this is the thing that we talk about is when I went back to sometimes you can use your rights in a wrong way. You also tend to forget, and especially when it's in a stress-filled situation like traveling or whatever, there's time constraints, especially if it's been the end of a conference or whatever. They're stressed out. The American workers are stressed out. They've got too many people. Things are going on. I disagree with the way they handled things in a tremendous way, but at the end of the day, they are people, too, that have had a crappy day.
Right.
Okay? So you've got to go, that's a person over there. That's not an enemy. That's not somebody I should shove my rights down their throat. It's we should try to come to an understanding. And sometimes the best way you can diffuse a situation is to acknowledge that person is having a rough time and try to serve them by going, you know what? I could fight this, but you're having a rough day. I'm just going to step back. And you take the blow. You sacrifice your rights so that you can give them the breathing room. And oftentimes you'll find that will make the situation so much better.
Yeah. A good thing to live by is there's a guy that's a kind of an internet celebrity, TV celebrity, whatever, Will Wheaton. If you just Google the Will Wheaton principle, that's a good thing to live by.
Don't be
keep calm and don't be a jerk.
Yeah.
But he uses a different word.
I usually tell people that people should just become an expert at giving people tongue fu. Right. A long time ago, back in 1997, I say this because one of my first mentors in business was a man named Ken John, who I recently connected with, brought me this one thing, and we were talking about how to work with people. And I got turned on to this book called Tung Fu. You see it around us still every now and again, but it's basically how to be able to talk to people. And how
have you actually read this book?
I see your tongue fu is.
Oh, you are lucky you're on air because I have an involuntary muscle in my arm that kind of comes up and does something with the hand, and I almost did.
When was the last time you read that?
I am gonna hit the two of you. But
homework tonight.
But what happens a lot of the times, like I would have erred on the side of muffins. Like I would have erred on the side of, look, you guys are having a really bad day here at AA. I brought you some coffee. And then would have tried that route. But it's a really, really bad situation. In that, I think that what happens is they are people too. They are in a really, really bad situation. Before we go into any of the good things, because I think that there are some good things that are here, we need to be able to kind of understand one thing, which is do not show people paperwork. Do not. And carry it if you want and be like, oh.
Well, think about it. If you're married or you're in a relationship, whatever, and you get in an argument with your spouse, how much would you enjoy them holding up a piece of paper to show you that you were wrong? It will bring you closer, won't it?
That's my problem.
Yeah. You
Man.
keep pulling out the piece
So
of paper.
Carlos Zalvidar 7355 says, I'm a police officer and a wedding photographer. That document will not help you. Somebody says, whatever law might apply to this, you're still going to lose that fight one way or the other. The Saracher's here. Stephanie A. Richer. Speech is broadly interpreted, Alexandra, to include more than vocal speech. Only a judge can use the law. Police enforce laws. RC is right. So at the end of the day, the step one. So we're starting into the positive things.
Yep.
What can you do here? Step one. Understand that the Photographer's Bill of Rights is a great thing. Do not shove it in people's face. If you want to argue it, argue stupidity. You're going to do better by arguing stupidity. I'd rather do this. I'm sorry that I didn't know that I was supposed to. You know what? I have this document that somebody gave me called the Photographer's Bill of Rights. I was reading it. I was under the impression that I could. At that point, somebody can go, oh, wow, Photographer's Bill of Rights. Let me take a look at that. This is a bunch of crap. You shouldn't use it. Or, wow, those are really, really good points. I did not know that either. But at least you're arguing from a smaller position rather than an, aha, this is what I have. So if you're going to use
all in the
it,
approach.
do that.
You're a soft position versus a hard position.
It's tongue fu.
Right.
That's what it is. It's a little softer. No, please don't. Let's take a break. Keep your tongues in your mouth. We'll be right back talking about some good stories that we've had with this, as well as some more tips to keep you away from the pokey. See you around.
Popo.
Get the world's best photography, lighting, and Photoshop training at Photoshop World. It's 3 non-stop days of real-world training where you can get personal attention and unlimited access to the world's top instructors in Photoshop and photography. When you attend, you'll have chances to experience hands-on live shoots and workshops. This is the must-attend conference for photographers and Photoshop users. Sign up today. Photoshop World, the world's best Photoshop and photography conference.
I'm Cliff Mountner. I've always envisioned taking Kelby One for an inside look at how I approach a real wedding. This is authentic. This is an actual client that has allowed me to capture their day and bring Kelby One along. You're gonna see how I approach every element of the day. We're talking about an overall view at my approach. I really hope you take a moment to check out my brand new classes, A Real Wedding, live and uncensored, only on kelby1.com.
Okay, we've been arguing right here during the break about, we're reading some of the chats and stuff like that, and somebody was talking about thinking about the long game versus a short game, and if you're right, you're right. Well, here's the thing. It's not just about you and your rights. It's that you're an ambassador. No matter what you do, whether it's photography or whatever, you're an ambassador for that, fill in the blank. And you may get away with something today that causes the next 12 people not to be able to do something because of the way you interacted with that. You may get your rights today and nobody gets anything from that point on. And we as a society have stopped thinking about our civic responsibility, that what I do influences you. It's all about me and my rights.
Well, here, let me just go into this for 1 second here, because because I did ask Lonnie in the chat where I turned around and said, please explain what you're talking about. And the response was, RC is saying surrender your rights because it's going to cause you a hassle, but in the long run, that serves to do nothing but erode our right even further. Lonnie, that'd be great if I was arguing for apartheid. Like, I'm taking a picture of a building that I'm going to put on 500px and maybe make 2 prints up for my mom. Is that really the time for me to be able to argue my rights? Like, this sounds like, well, the right is right and the Constitution. Just because I turn around and I go, dude, sorry, man, I didn't really know. The Constitution that's mounted in Washington isn't going to start spontaneously crumbling. It's going to be totally fine.
Well, and I think the argument, yes, we do need to be aware of our rights are being eroded in different places, but that's not the battlefield.
Yeah,
that's not where you're going to make things happen and change at that instance right there. The thing is, you come back after that instance, maybe you write about it, you write your senator, you talk to different people, and you get it educated on a different level and have things actually happen.
You've got people in our Senate that are trying to take away affordable care. Guess what? We've got bigger problems than whether or not somebody's going to actually take our picture. I'm just saying.
And there's always exceptions to it. We could throw up a straw man about when that argument is wrong. Well, what about if you're the last person on the earth with a camera and da-da-da-da-da? yeah, we can throw up all these different arguments. The end of the day, what we're trying to say to you is
Be smart.
be smart, be respectful.
And
it's
don't be a tool.
amazing. It's amazing how much that will help you get further than being a right demander. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk about sometimes just by carrying a camera around, you get more rights than the average citizen. But we never argue about that. I don't go up and go, oh, you're letting me in here to take this picture? No, I don't deserve that. You better not let me in. You're going to mess up the bill, our Constitution, if you let me have more rights than the guy without the camera.
And you know what? And this is where we start talking about the entire thing about times that it has happened, that it's been good. So one of the first, and Pete, you know what? I think that you're 100% right with most of this stuff. Just because you know your rights doesn't necessarily mean that you should be a tool, jerk, to do that. First off, be nice. You know what? Like somebody said, well, what if we were taking pictures of in Ferguson, illegal police activity in Ferguson, Missouri? Then sneak those pictures. Don't show up and be like, I'm a photographer doing civil injustice capturing here. Please get away. And that's what happens. I have my tripod here. I pull out my tripod, and it's kind of hard to see. We might have to jib shot this. But what'll happen is when a person puts down a tripod, what they do is they say that this entire sphere from here around here, the whole circle around where that tripod is my circle of importance. So right here, from here. Now, mind you, this tripod is not extended. So when it's extended, my sphere is this big in front of me. So basically, when I set myself down, I'm looking like a Puerto Rican Ansel Adams. I'm sitting there and I'm like, excuse me, there is magic happening in this giant space. Please do not get in the way of it. And I'm like, how about you just do this? Take the same tripod and make it this big. Really small. So that the sphere that you have is much smaller, so that when people are looking at you, you're not getting, a lot of the times tripods have to do with public safety. Mm-hmm. People tripping on them, somebody dragging it, being in a situation where they can get caught. Why don't you show up to a situation and actually be like, listen, I'm sensitive of people's needs. My picture might be a little blurry because of it, but at least I'm trying. I can't tell you how many times I've shown up to a situation with a tripod, put it like that, where a security guard hasn't walked by and gone, listen, if there's nobody around here, you can put it out a little bit more. Don't worry about it. Because that's not me being an idiot. That's not me rolling over. That's me turning around and going, I'm sensitive to other things that are happening here. Let me go ahead and try that. Now, Pete, I know that you brought it up. I'm like, you had that other opportunity in D.C.
Yeah, when we did Photoshop World in D.C., when we were going to go out there, we were going to go out there a couple days earlier, and we were like, yeah, we're going to go shoot the mall, Lincoln Memorial, and all this stuff. So we got online and started reading all these horror stories about, don't even think about bringing your tripod. Don't do this, don't do that. They are horrible out there. So we're like, crap, this is going to be rough. And we ended up having a group met up, probably about 12, 15 folks. Mm-hmm. And we're walking from the Vietnam Memorial over to the Lincoln Memorial. And I said, I'm going to run ahead and see what the situation is there, because they said that's one place that they're really tough on. So I go running ahead and I go up the stairs, and there is a wonderful, are they park rangers?
They're Capitol Police.
Capitol Police is there, and she's the only one. It's in the evening, and so there's not a lot of people there. And so I walk up to her and I go, hey, I've got a question. And I'm carrying my tripod and my camera gear. I said, we've got a few people coming up here, and I wanted to know what your policy is on tripods. We've all got rubber feet on the bottom of them so we don't scratch anything up. But we want to know whether or not we can use that in here, and what you would like us to do as far as with tripods. And she said, oh, you understand about rubber feet and all that? And she said, there's nobody around here. Sure, come on in. By the end of the night, we were everywhere in there. She was helping direct us where to go and do all this stuff, because we approached her and respected her position as the guardian, the custodian of that place, but also we respected her and the other people there. She said, now, if a bunch of people come up, y'all just kind of close them up and move out of the way. But as long as we were respectful for her or whatever, she gave us full run of that place and was very helpful, wonderful. She was great we made a great connection with her while we were there. And here's a shot that RC.
A lot of and we posted this picture from there, from the Lincoln Memorial. So we shot inside of the Lincoln Memorial. People are like, how'd you get that kind of access? How'd you get that kind of shot? I'm like,
We weren't jerks.
we weren't jerks, for one, and we used the tripod. You used a tripod in the Lincoln Memorial? I'm like, yeah, you know how? We weren't jerks. See step one.
We asked, we related, we were nice. We treated them as if they were people. And that's crazy if you actually think that's another person you're talking to.
Right.
Not just an enemy or a guard. You know, they put on a uniform and suddenly we forget that they take the uniform off and they're a person. And that's one of the things that happens is if you can remember that sometimes your most sneaky ninja move is to be caring for the other person you're talking to.
That's a great way to be able to kind of put that in. That
Dig
was
into
nice.
that depth right there.
That was good. You got a gift. You got a
Hey.
gift.
Speaking of being nice, one of the few times that RC was nice, this helped him as well.
Yes.
You suck. I hate you, Fred Moore.
See right there. You see now, if he was a security guard, Brad would not be able to use a tripod.
Nope, no tripod for me.
We're not. So anyway, so take a look at this picture. This is one of the before pictures, and I've had this actually in the HDR book. The only reason I'm not showing a zoomed-in picture of it is because I've been debating for the longest time whether or not I wanted to show this picture. The file cannot be found. I've never shown this picture. This is probably the first time that I ever tell this story. But basically, this is the shot. It's the Austin Capitol. And we're out there shooting at the Austin Capitol, and I'm there with my friends Christine and Dan. And we're shooting, and we're like, oh, this is cool, this is cool. Capitol Police shows up like in a hot minute. And they're like, what are you doing here? What are you shooting this? And this man shows up, and I'm really nervous. So I'm telling this story, and I'm like, no, we're trying to do this, and we're trying to be nice. And I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't want me to get in the way, or didn't want to do anything else. And he turns around and the guy that was with us was a homicide detective as well. And he's like, we're just photographers. We're just kind of playing around. And we played it loose. And the guy turns around and he goes, if you go this way over by the trees, you can actually make a really cool shot with this thing in the background. And I'm like, yeah, look at
this
you,
guy's
you're a
on our side.
photographer. I was like, are you shooting? Are you taking pictures? Because you should. That's a pretty good thing. So I start talking to him and I'm like, you got a gift. You're good. Yeah, that's a nice shot. And he starts talking, and he's like, oh, no, this is all right. This is pretty cool. This is this. And then probably about 20 minutes after it, so this is the picture, right? Now, 20 minutes after it, he turns around, and he's like, hey, you want to do something cool? And I'm like, if somebody tells you, hey, you want to do something cool at midnight, always say yes.
Wait.
say
Asterisks.
yes.
Asterisks on that one.
No, it's cool. I don't care.
Especially if they're in a really crazy looking van and they say have candy.
He's got a suit on and handcuffs. I'm saying
It
yes.
puts the lotion.
I'm saying yes.
Continue.
So he turns around and he goes, you want to do something cool? And we're like, yes. So he turns around and he goes inside here to the front door and unlocks the Capitol building. This is what you get with being nice. Dude, now mind you, I'm not walking around going, I am RC, a Photoshop guy. Please let me in. He didn't know me from Adam. But we started talking.
Adam's
He's
a better shooter.
You want to do something? And he's like, unlocks the front door to the Austin Capitol. It's like me and a guy waxing the floor. I'm like, hey, there's three of us, and we're shooting these pictures. And let me see. There was there. So now I am on the floor of the Capitol building, shooting straight up to the star at the very, very, very top of the Capitol building. I'm laying there, and I'm like, this could not get any cooler. There's no one here. He leans forward. I'm laying on the floor. He leans forward and whispers in my ear, get undressed. No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
You got worried about my
I'm
comment
sorry.
earlier. No.
He whispers in my ear, hey, you want to do something cooler? And I'm like, yes. And he's like, do you see that star all the way up at the top? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, you want to touch it? And I'm like, oh, hell yeah. He's like, are you afraid of heights? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I absolutely am. He's like, is that going to stop you? And I'm like, no. So we literally went up the side of this thing. We're going higher and higher. I took this really, really blurry shot of us going through these spirals. You could barely see what it is. It's like this spiral to do that. He takes us up, kid you not, right here to this part of the dome. And that spiral staircase that you saw is the spiral staircase here, going here. And he turns around and he's like, you have to be careful with that red light. You don't bump it because that's for planes. And I'm like, okay, now up here, at this spot right here, there are a set of doors just under this statue at the top of the Capitol building. And I get out there and he goes, I didn't bring you all the way out here for you not to do anything. Get out there and walk around. And it's like, there's birds flying under us. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, and we took a picture. So this is what it looked like from up there. And this is a picture of Christine and Dan that we took circling that thing on our backs at the top of the Austin Capitol. So there's the star. I literally had Dan press me up against the railing to try to take a picture going straight. All of them came out blurry. All of them came out of focus because I was terrified that I was just going to be a splat right at the bottom of the Texas thing. And the dude turned around and he was just like, listen, the only thing that I ask, look, I'm trying to do it badly. Take a picture straight down, and I couldn't do it. But the guy's like, you know what, man? The only thing that I ask is I'm retiring in a couple years. Please don't show these pictures.
Well, if he hasn't, he is now.
Well, it was 2008. That was 7 years ago. He said he was retiring in 3 years. I gave him twice, and I told the story today. But anyway, so that kind of stuff happens. It's pretty cool. Dubai. We can't talk about the Dubai thing.
Right. So next Thursday,
That's right.
we're going to have a webcast with Scott, RC, and myself to talk about our recent trips to Dubai. And there's some more stuff that we're going to talk about in that kind of relates to this. So tune in.
Yeah, dude, it was cool, dude. So it'll be a good time. Dubai was a great time. But anyway, I've been wanting to tell that. I'm sorry we took some time on that. I've been wanting to tell that story for a long time, and I'm like, you know what? That's what happens when you do cool things for cool people.
Yeah.
Now,
That's. I think that comes with it. Part of it is just your natural character that you care about people, and that's. You know, they say luck follows the prepared. I think luck also follows the kind.
Yeah,
Hopefully, you know, that's my worldview. But anyway,
So we're still talking about kind of solutions and stuff here.
right. So one solution was that, right?
Yeah.
2 was don't
nice.
be a tool.
So John in the chat said, I took an F plate on the top of 30 Rock. The security guys came over and saw it and said, smart.
Dude, wait. So we got to talk about that.
No, we're going to talk about that. We need to take a break.
Okay,
and
let's
we'll
take a
come
break.
back.
Okay.
But first of all, remember, guys, we have Peach Pit Peach Pit e-deals every week. And if you want to get 40% off this book by Todd Sipes, it's Urban Exploration Photography. You'll go to peachpit.com/Kelby1. Make sure you enter the coupon code Kelby1 and you can get 40% off this great ebook deal by Todd Sipes. So anyway, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about some sneaky gear that you can use when you are being sneaky and maybe not too kind.
Yeah, there you go. We'll be right back here on the grid. Take care.
Take care. They're not going to.
You'll never have fewer digital images than you have today. By tomorrow, you'll have more.
This is the first time in my life where I've had this instantaneous access to all my images all the time.
With Mylio, you look over at your iPad and it's there, and you pop up your iPhone and it's there. It's like, cool.
You're talking about protecting and monitoring the visual history of our lives. This is exactly what I've been waiting for. This is what a ton of people are waiting for. This is what we need.
We all know the difference a great teacher makes. They inspire you, challenge you, and push you to do the things you never thought you could. For creatives, that means you've got to know your tools inside and out, whether it's Photoshop or photography, lighting or Lightroom, InDesign or After Effects. And while there are free videos out there, you have to watch 30 bad ones just to find a decent one. And a lot of times, the techniques are either outdated, complicated, or just plain wrong. What we need is a better way to learn. One that connects amazing teachers with creative people all over the world, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. A thriving educational community with nothing but the most talented, engaging and respected teachers in the industry. Then we simplify the whole learning process with short, clear, concise classes. That's exactly what we've created for you right here at Kelby One.
All right, welcome back to the grid, guys. It's here, me, Brad, got our C&P here.
What's going on, everybody?
Getting a sip of coffee.
Yeah, man. So this is the part where
The sneaky part.
right? I wanted to tell the stories, to highlight most of that stuff, talk about the bad, talk about some of the good stuff. But truthfully, you also have to kind of sometimes do the sneaky part.
Well, also because sometimes you don't have a person to interact with. You
Right.
don't have that person to get permission from. You're in a situation where you can either get the shot or not get the shot, and by the time you went and got permission or whatever, you lost it. But also, if you pull out your tripod or whatever, you know you won't get the shot because suddenly somebody will show up out of nowhere. So these are some things you can do to kind of plan ahead for when you see the sign "No tripods allowed" or other things that show up, because they're showing up more and more. These are some ways to get around those to get a little bit better shot.
So, number one, the first thing that I usually tell people when you want to get away from that stuff, carry a pocket tripod, carry a desktop tripod, right? Those things. This is a good recommendation here, the Manfrotto Pixie, right? So the Manfrotto Pixie tabletop tripod. And let me tell you a story. So I'm in New York, and I got to find the picture now. Hold up a second. So I'm in New York, and I'm hanging out after an Adobe conference, and they throw a party at this one spot. And I show up anytime that I go anywhere. I don't try to hide my tripod. I carry it looped. I have a way that I carry it looped, and I always show up with it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to do that.
For the record, backpack, you take one leg and you slip it down right in that strap that comes across here, and it just hangs there nice and
right. So
nice
I'm going to go to my own website and find this thing. So I'll go over here, and so I show up with this. I show up with this tripod, and I'm like, all right, that's fine. As soon as I get there, the guy turns around and he's like, hey, tripod. I'm like, what? It's my tripod. Come on, gimme. I'm like, oh, hell no, you didn't just say gimme. So he takes it, and we go upstairs, and it is a beautiful view. Beautiful.
So you go back down there and do a little Chun-Li move on him.
No, I'm not doing any Chun-Li moves on him. I turn around and I'm like, oh, okay, it's fine. I gave him my tripod. I was like, here, take it. So I show up, and they had like this suicide glass, like these, like one pane and then a little gap and then another pane and then a little gap. So I turn around and I'm like, pull out my desktop tripod. I take the leg out. I splay it in between the two glasses. I wedge it as tight can be. I grab the other two legs and I press it up against it, and I got that shot. I was like, take that. So desktop tripod, carry it with me all the time. I have rigged that thing into so many different positions. And then at that point, I just walk in. I walk over and I'm like, hey, boys, you want my tripod? Take it, because I'm always prepared. Always carry another thing. Now, what do you have?
And you auction it off. You know, you rented it out. How much you want a tripod? A couple things that I have. Here's the one that back at art school, I can't remember what professor talked about it. But so you've got your camera. I've got just a little pocket camera with me. That's another thing. Also, now sometimes people will be looking for those big cameras, but you sneak one of these in. This thing's got like 20 megapixels.
Which one is that?
That's the G7X that I stole from Corey.
Very nice.
Yeah, great imagery on there, but you'll get away with a lot more when you don't look. You bring a big tripod, don't look like you have a big camera. You'll actually be able to get shots that you might not get another way. But here's another tip for you. If I'm going someplace I'm worried about, let's say I'm going to a museum or something and worried about being able to take a tripod, see if they can zoom in on this. It is simply a 1/4 20 bolt, and I've got a little gaffer tape, but on that I have wrapped around about 6 or 7 feet of fishing wire. And you're like,
are you MacGyver?
I am MacGyver. For one thing, you always want to have a little gaffer tape. For some reason, you're going to need to tape some stuff up. But what this does is the gaffer tape just is holding on the fishing line. But so now I've got all this fishing line that I can undo.
That's how we do this stuff here in Alabama.
Yeah, that's how we do it down here in Alabama. The 1/4 20. I mean, you buy this for like 10 cents at a hardware store. But so then you just take this, you screw it into your mounting bracket at the bottom, tripod mount, and now what you're going to do is, if they can follow me, you got me.
Arnaldo's like, he's going rogue, he's going rogue.
So what you do is you bring this, And it's hard to see. Of course, I use transparent monofilament so you can't see it. But what you do is you step on it and you create tension, a little bit of tension on there.
What he's saying is that then you step on it, and when you step on the fishing wire, it creates a little bit of tension, creating almost a ghetto tripod on a fishing line, which actually works pretty good.
It works pretty well. Now,
Better than nothing?
The stronger, the more test, the less pull. Yeah, you can use any kind of string or whatever. Some people like to use a little chain or something, the pull chains for the fins or whatever.
Right.
It has no give, but you can pull against it to get that reverse stability by using that, and you can actually get an f-stop 2 or more from your camera by using that.
Now, I want to point out real quick, we have a live audience today. So we have Craig, who flew in from Hong Kong, Shanghai, right? So he was in Shanghai. Sean Neumeyer's local, and LaTanya. It's always good to see LaTanya, right? She's becoming a resident visitor. But Sean's sitting there going, that's actually pretty good. Somebody in the chat said, freaking brilliant, Pete.
Yeah, and so I prefer stringed monofilament, but that's all I had. I had this in my office. Don't ask me why I had this.
You've always got random stuff in your office.
But
whatever you use, make sure that it's going to be sturdy, because if you're sitting there pulling up on it and it breaks, that's not going to be a good day for you.
Awesome.
Can I see the camera?
Yep.
I haven't played with this thing yet, dude. I want to.
It's awesome. I stole it from Brad when I was in Vegas. Another thing that I love, I always have in my camera bag, I always have several of these, which I actually stole from Brad as well.
Yes.
These gray Velcro strips, they're the hooks on one side, the loops on the other, and they can strap together. Well, you take 3 or 4 of these, and I just have them lined inside my bag, and anytime I need to strap something down, I can take these and just crank them down. Brad, don't go there.
I just said it, yeah.
But these are awesome. They don't take up much room, but they can be used in so many ways. They're kind of like the other, the GorillaPod is also another one that I've used in awesome places, subway, cars, etc. And then since I'm talking about my ghetto stuff,
dude, I like it.
You got your simple ratchet clamp that you get from a hardware store. Once again, I just put on a 1/4 bolt with a little nut on it that holds that lock nut in there. And now I can take this and I can clamp it to, whatever I need to. And it's a poor man's
dude, I think that's great. I think that's brilliant. I hadn't seen that.
I use these for flashes all the time.
And I'm like,
I'll put a cold shoe on. I'll put 3 or 4 different flashes around using these, and they'll just clamp on wherever at a wedding or whatever. Super cheap, super dependable. It's the way to go.
Here, I wanted to bring this up. So here, a couple of the pieces that I carry with me and a couple of tricks that I carry with me. So this is the Manfrotto 244 Magic Arm. I have used this. So it's a Manfrotto 244 variable friction magic arm with a camera bracket. That's this guy right here. Now, it has a adjusting clamp tied to the bottom of it, right? Or a super clamp. Sorry, it's not adjusting clamp. But
that's the cheap adjusting clamp.
That's the cheap adjusting clamp.
Adjusting clamp's a small.
Now, what do I like about this? I've carried this. I actually did shots. Somebody said, well, to have fun trying to take a tripod to the Empire State Building. And I'm like, I don't take a tripod to the Empire State Building. I took it like this. Hey, boys, want this? And I handed it to them, and I had this in my bag. So you show up to the suicide fence of it, and you turn around and you go, all right, this bottom part right here, you grab this, and you clamp it to the edge of the fence. You tie that thing down. Now, you have to get the one with the ball. It's kind of hard to see. So there's that, right? So now, Potty Pod goes over.
It's nice that it's black with your black T-shirt on a.
Here, look, right there. See, now it's clamped down to the table, right? Now, from here, see this arm? Swing up a little bit for a second. This little ball right here. You grab this and you open it. When this is open, look, it goes everywhere, right? But you can get this exactly where you would want it. And as soon as it gets to the spot that you want, I gotta bend it right here. You get it to the spot that you want. As soon as you tighten it, that thing stays tight. Now, Javi, you gotta open this here and bring this up. Now it's tight. Screw that to the top of your camera, and I was like this. Click, 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 click. And people are like, what the?
Now,
not a tripod.
I could be wrong, but I want to say I remember somebody trying that again after you did it, and the security officers had kind of caught on, and they were like, "No, you can't do that." Right. So you can try it.
Well, there you go. Way to go.
This is one of those things. So this is one thing that I do. And somebody had mentioned the F plate. This is something that I just brought this with me to Dubai. I want to show a picture of me of some of the pictures that I did over in Dubai with the Burj. I'm carrying this now. So this is the Platypod Pro. If you guys need to be able to see that, because the name's kind of little dicey, but it works, right? The platypodpro.com, I started carrying, it's kind of like an F plate, right? So the concept of it is just, it's a plate, it's a flat plate, and that plate then has a mount here where you could actually screw the actual camera to. Then it has another one here if you need a bigger bowl, or if you wanted to be able to put like an umbrella adapter.
Some of the ball heads have the bigger one of these.
Right, so you put a small ball head on this, or you put the camera directly to this, and now that's fine. You can even take it a step further by grabbing these and actually putting them in here. So now you have 1 foot, and I probably would use the opposite side.
Adjust it on a plane.
I'd use the sharp end sticking down.
Right. So, I mean, I just have it kind of like that just to show, but then you can kind of place that on locations. But these other holes that you have here,
Zip ties.
zip tie. So now you grab this thing, put it onto a location, grab a couple zip ties, and just crank, get it into one spot. You don't have anything to worry. But not only you do that, but you could also do that with lights, right? I mean, no reason you couldn't put, spin a flash head on it.
Yep.
There you go. Put that on there.
You should almost always be carrying Velcro and cable ties in your bag.
And gaffer's tape.
And gaffer's tape, because they don't weigh much, but they can do so much for you.
But dude, look at that.
Then you got the spot for like a studio light or whatever.
Yep.
Man, just tie it anywhere, dude. So Kevin brought this over. So these are guys that we're actually working with, and he was like, "Oh, you want to try this one thing?" And I was like, "I don't know." I saw it and I was like, "That's freaking brilliant!" So I've been really excited about it. Anyway, but so this is one of the other pieces of gear that I think is essential for the bag. What do you guys think? So we have gear. We have don't be a jerk.
Attitude.
Know about the attitude. Research your local area.
Looking at the teleprompter here, we got cable release trick. Did you talk about that?
That was the
cable
release.
release.
Oh yeah, no, the cable release is me. Get a cable release, right?
I'm assuming Spanish trick is you too.
Yes.
No, that's me.
You're a Spanish trick.
All right, I'll give you these two. So these are the two other things.
Well, hold on. While you're researching that, I would also say, if you're use your social networks and the people around you to help you as well. For instance, you're going to go visit Austin or whatever. Maybe you have some photographer friends there. They've already gone through some of the legwork of knowing what you can and can't do, and they may have special access or relationships that they can get you places that you normally wouldn't go.
Right.
For instance, the next day when we were in D.C., our buddy Matt picked us up, and he worked with the mall police, and he took us places that ticked other people off because he had the access to go there. So don't forget that, we're photographers. We love to find great places, but we also love to show them off and take other people there. So use that as a sneaky way, because that'll go, you can never get this shot except for when John's working on Thursdays. And if you bring him a cupcake and a USA Today or something like that, he will let you go shoot for 30 minutes in this area. Whereas if you didn't connect with somebody from the area, you'd never get there.
Absolutely. Oh, so the cable release trick. So thanks for that. So the cable release. Buy yourself any kind of cheap cable release. I don't care what it is. Just buy something for your camera, carry it with you, right? You go out, you set your camera up, you put it to work. You could do this with your timer. I tend to like a cable release. You set up the cable release, click. Set your camera up in a position. Remember the smaller footprint position. Set it up like that, let it go. Don't look at your camera while you're doing it. Set it up, hit the cable release without looking at your camera. Set up your thing, kind of meter it a little bit, shoot a little wide if you have to crop, flip the cable release, and then just kind of, I'm setting up my camera like this. So got it there, got it. Every now and again I kind of look over, take a look at it. It's in that one spot, then boom, hit the cable release. But the legs are collapsed enough for the people not to think that you're making a shot. And then I'll just leave it and walk away. I'll walk away and I'm just like, oh, wait a minute. Dear God, I hope somebody doesn't call me because I'm really not going to be on my phone. I'm just going to be like, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. I see the security guard coming and all of a sudden I'm like, okay, yeah, wonderful. And usually I do this for like bracketed shots. So all I hear is click, click. And I'm like, dear God, I hope the security guard doesn't come. And if he's coming, I'll meet him before my camera. Like, so I'll pass my camera and be like, I'm sorry, what? And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, you can't take any pictures. I was gonna set up for a shot. Like, I can't take any pictures. No, I'm sorry, sir, you can't be able to take a picture. In the meanwhile, in the back is going,
he's
click,
vamping for that
click.
8-second exposure.
And then I'm like, oh, okay, not a problem. And then I just grab the sticks, throw them over my shoulder, and then walk away. If I really need the shot, I'll walk over and be like, Buenos días, ¿cómo está? No entiendo. Es muy imposible para mí. And then if they start breaking out the Spanish, then I'm like, foiled. All right, dude, I'll go and take the tripod.
That's why I start speaking Thai because
You know a little German.
Yeah.
สวัสดีครับสบายดีไหมครับกำลังทำรูปที่นี่ไม่
What you
รู้
guys don't know
เล
is
ย
they're just cursing like crazy right now, both of them.
all the Thai people are shocked right now.
And then the other thing that I usually do with that is if I'm going out to shoot at a spot where I think that my camera or my cards are going to be confiscated, I always carry I switch to SD, and I carry a dummy SD in my watch pocket. So I'll turn around and I shoot. Like if I'm shooting something and I see that the heat's going to happen, if I got a shot, I'll pull the card out and I'll put a dummy one in. Or if I see security coming, I'll start fidgeting, switch out my dummy card, I have it in my watch pocket, switch out the dummy card and take a picture. And then when they're like, oh, what are you shooting? I'm like, oh, I'm not allowed to. Oh, you got to. Oh, absolutely. Boom. But the card's in my pocket.
So
already.
This isn't on the script, but that
So
reminded
everything we
me.
just told you earlier, forget it.
That's if you have to be sneaky. Dude, sometimes you have to be.
That reminded me of a story when I worked with Joe McNally. We were doing a shoot for the National Geographic. We were out in this like national park in Spain with this reconstructed Neanderthal woman that's like basically just completely naked, but it's like
Oh yeah, I have that happen all the time.
yeah. So, but we're out there. I don't know. I don't think we had actual permission to be there, but we're out there at like sunrise and whatever. And all of a sudden, the park rangers come through and they're like, "What are you guys doing?" And
Hey, boo boo, we're gonna see the park ranger.
As soon as we saw the car start to pull up in our direction, Joe just looked at me and said, "Get the cards out of the camera right now." Mm-hmm. That's just the first instinct. So you get the cards out of the camera.
Yep.
They come up. Oh, we haven't. You know.
I always carry, and that's why like 1 gigabyte flash cards, 2 gigabyte flash cards, or SD cards. I carry
You
some
can have
in the
it.
glove box, and I carry some on me whenever I'm
Yeah.
shooting a spot where I'm like, I think it's gonna get hot. As soon as that happens, it's like, whoop, there's the flip. Oh, here, you can take the card. I don't care. I'm not shooting anymore. As long as I can get out, and then I'm like sneaky like a fox.
Forrest,
So, anyway, so those are other things that you can do for that.
Was that the Spanish trick?
That
Oh,
no,
the-
Yeah, he
it's
pretends
Spanish.
he doesn't speak
No
English.
hablo inglés.
A couple people in the chat wanted me to go over this real quick. It's just a Bessie clamp. You can get it, but it's got, if you'll notice on the back, it's just got these 2 little holes in the clamp that go right through the plastic, and you just take a 1/4 20. That's the type, the size, and the type of spiral around the thing. It's one of your basic bolts, or you could even use a butterfly bolt. And you're just I had to take a knife and just drill a little hole in it, pop that through, and then I've just got a nice little, here, let me stop moving it around so you can see it. I've just got a nice little lock washer and a bolt on top of that, and that works for this thing cost me like, I bought a pack of 4 of these, I think, for like $8, or it could have been a little bit more, and then I spent a whole 32 cents on this stuff over here or something like that. It probably cost me $9 or $10 to make several of these. So anyway, that's my little cheap trick for the day.
See, this is what RC
Somebody-
does. He's doing stuff over here, but he's looking at me, so the attention is not on the keyboard.
No, because somebody just said, hey, you can't do that in America because everyone speaks Spanish here. And I'm like, man, that's not racist at all. But anyway, hey, listen.
I don't
So we're
speak
at the
Spanish.
spot. So we have a couple of new classes that have come out here for Kelby 1. One of the first ones, if you haven't seen the promo of it, the American Safari with Moose Peterson, the promo looks like it was amazing, dude. It looked like it was like from Discovery
Yeah.
Channel. So,
And it's funny, too.
oh, dude, it was great. It was great. So this is coming soon for Kelby 1.
I think it's already up.
Is it already up?
I think it went up last week.
Okay, very, very cool. And then we have
could be
camera
wrong.
basics classes for the Nikon D810.
According
As well.
to Craig in our audience, he gave us the thumbs up.
Okay,
Okay.
it is up. Thanks,
And,
Craig.
and the trailer for that class, I think it's the first trailer that we've ever had the word scat used in.
Really?
Yes.
That's awesome. That's great. So
stuff.
we also have a camera basics class for the Nikon D750. So we have 2 classes. If you guys are owners of the 810 or the 750, you have
That's
a class
for you.
that's going to take you step by step through the entire camera. Now, there is one more thing that we want to talk about. We want to talk about the contest. Contest time. So what are we going to do? We're going to go to the Kelby 1 website /contest.
Are we giving something away?
What? We are going to give something away. We're going to give away one of these things.
Oh, perfect.
How about that? I'm
That was
thinking-
planning.
I'm
Y'all didn't
thinking
notice him
off
go,
the
what are
bat.
we going We're going
One
to
of
give
you
away
guys-
this.
One of you guys is
right
going to win this Platypod Pro. So all you have to do is go to kelby1.com. I'm going to go to kelby1.com /contest. put in your name, put in your email address, put in your website, and
Tell us what you want to win.
you're going to be one step closer to being a sneaky photographer.
And I'm going to throw in this signed Velcro strap with the platypod right there.
Wow. That's
you go.
great. Now, last thing, know that Kelby One is now on Roku. So all of our webcasts, including Lightroom Show, are available at Hours to Your Show, to your Roku lineup, with the word Kelby One. So
There
it's
you
kind of
go.
neat.
That
Right?
is cool.
It's not just on iTunes. Not just iTunes. Now you can do it on the Roku.
There you go.
But anyway, we talked about the webcast. Make sure that you stay in touch with us. Follow us on Twitter. Where are you?
Be more visuals, everything. BMOORE visuals.
All right,
.com, Twitter, Instagram.
Facebook, all of that's
Not
the same
Facebook,
thing.
really,
Pete
but
Collins?
whatever.
Yeah, PeteCollins.com is my website. You can also find me at the member site, Kelby One members side of things, and also Facebook, Pete C Photo. You can find me there.
Perfect. If you need to find out more about me, easiest way to be able to do it is obviously go to the Kelby One website or go to aboutrc.com. Stay tuned for next week. So next week, Scott and I will be talking about the Dubai stuff. We're going to be sharing some pictures and some more information. And you.
It's next Thursday.
It's next Thursday.
What time? Do we know?
I'm
Should
going to
be
guess 7
usually
o'clock.
7 p.m.
I'm
It's
gonna
usually
guess 7
7, yeah.
o'clock. But anyway,
Guess who's here next week for the grid?
who's here for next week?
Peter Hurley. Shebang.
Nice. Nice.
That'll be a
nice.
quiet one.
That'll be a very, very quiet one. But anyway, listen, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Brad, thanks for helping us.
Absolutely.
Tim, thanks for helping out and filling in. Pete, thanks for coming in for yet another week. Pete's been doing
I'm the
well
grid
this.
master lately.
He's becoming the grid master. So anyway, and thanks to all of you guys for stopping by. Thanks to our studio audience, LaTanya, Craig. We've got Sean. We'll see you guys here next week on the grid. Take care.